Trump is a populist candidate. The form of populism that he ran on was anti-immigration. That's literally what he now. People say no, 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 no. It was anti-illegal immigration. No, it wasn't. Does anybody remember the Muslim ban? Anybody remember that? It was also trying to curtail legal immigration from groups that we didn't feel were good at assimilating into the kind of United States experience. So it wasn't just about illegal immigrants. It was about putting a lock and key on the door so that we could address our own social issues, address our own problems. And one of the big problems that we have right now to curtail is the birth rate issue. It's now a crisis. We now have the revised numbers. It's even lower than was predicted. You're talking no longer about 1.6, but 1.3. 1.3. So this is a serious problem. So what the leftists have said and what they continue to say is, well, we should address both at the same time. Why not continue to bring immigrants in? While simultaneously you bring immigrants in, you can offer kind of like basic incentives for people to have kids. These are always monetary incentives, but that's not really what the problem is. Poor people have way more children than rich people do. And the middle class has less children than poor people do. It's not a money problem. It's never been a money problem. It's a standard problem. It's got three prongs to it. The first is that women are prioritizing education during reproductive years. That's problem number one. Problem number one. The second is that alternative lifestyles are glorified and promoted through all forms of media and from the top down when it comes to government policy. Everything is glorified except the family unit and the respect that comes with the family unit. The third prong of this is the social issue, which has to do with the fact that the localization of men to women is now gone. The options are now global for even mid women or not so great looking women to move kind of outside of their localization of where they used to have to choose from the local men, and they can compete more heavily for a smaller select group of men. This is a lot to curtail. This is a major problem to curtail, but you can do it. Essentially, you could solve most of the problem, get the birth rate moving the opposite direction almost immediately by running a national campaign. I would say heavily with propaganda to invigorate, using the CIA, NSA, intelligence agencies to go to Hollywood and tell them, for purposes of national security, the rhetoric and propaganda needs to change to be very pro-family. We want a glorification of of men in society, male leadership, and not to make them look like bumbling idiots or threats, but rather to give them a glorification and respect. And then the same thing with mothers who stay at home, take care of their families. They should have a social status which comes with that only propaganda can bring. There's you want it to have a social status. That would do more to curtail the problem than almost anything else. But you still have the other two prongs. You still have the other two prongs in the other two issues. So the second prong is immigration. So why does immigration tie in to the birth rate issue? Well, it ties in because if you can replace your domestic population, which can't reproduce itself, with immigrants, where's the incentive for corporations who can use that as a wedge issue to lower the wages of their workers to actually deal with that problem? Well, it's not there. They can use it as a wedge, and the corporate interests can lobby Congress to keep the status quo, never to actually deal with this problem, but rather to continuously bring in foreign nationals and foreigners into the nation in order to offset this population decline and pay them less money. So that's why immigration is tied into the birth rate problem, and it's a serious problem. It's a serious issue. Well, no, it's not the Great Replacement. That's a whole different thing. That's like it's like a motivational. The idea for that is like there's a motivational dark cell which is trying to purposely replace whites in the United States. That's not actually what's going on. I'm sure that many people would love to think that it is, but what's really going on is industrialization tied with materialism, and primarily women sacrificing reproductive years. That's it. It's really not that hard, right? You don't even need like a nefarious conspiratorial cabal. It's not even necessary. You don't even need one. Like it's not even necessary to have. So this is why all of these things are tied together and why Elon Musk is such a fucking disappointment. Because Elon Musk, he went through and he came to the same realization that I did, that population collapse is imminent and that this is terrible. This is fucking awful. And the reason that it's awful, the reason that's fucking terrible is because if we have population collapse globally, people don't really realize that things like starvation, we've gotten rid of those things ultimately. They're basically gone. Global starvation is damn near a thing of the past. And this is because of logistics, because there's more hands on deck, because we can grow more food. That's why. And if you have population collapse, we're going to have logistical issues. We're going to have product issues. We're going to have a lot of problems. And he knows this. But unfortunately, his solution to it was to do the same thing as the progressive solution. Well, population in decline, I guess we're going to have to go get immigrants to replace it, rather than try to address the problem of having the domestic population reproduce, which is better for a million reasons, right? It's better for cross-generational wealth. It's better for long-term family stability. It's better for ancestry. It's better for cultural roots. Like the list goes on and on and on and on and on of why you want your domestic population to be reproducing. Like there's a lot of great reasons why. And I don't really care if it's what color they are, right? I don't know why people want to make this into a racial issue. I've never seen it that way. I see population collapse as being a threat to humanity, not a particular demographic. It's a threat to all of humanity. So ultimately, it's something that needs to be addressed. And you can't address it by just saying, well, we'll just bring in fucking foreigners until until the problem goes away. But the problem's not going to go away. And then you have the second problem, which is that even when you bring immigrants in, by the second generation, they have the same kind of low birth rate. So that's why. That's my take on it. Yeah, I know. You want to make it into a racial issue. Go make it into a racial issue somewhere else. It's not. It never has been. Right? The number one correlate is the reproductive years of women. Not because they're white, not because they're black, not because they're Hispanic, but because their reproductive years are spent at college. That's it. That's the number one correlate for the reproductive crisis in the West. Number one correlate. So you can try to make it into a racial issue all you want, but it really isn't one. It's not. It really doesn't have much to do with that at all. That's not what the fucking correlates say. So people have studied this and studied this and studied it. But there are people. You have to remember that there's many people who are devoted to identity politics. They're devoted to it. And so instead of looking at the evidence and what the evidence actually is saying, the evidence needs to fit a narrative. If it doesn't fit the narrative, then you're wrong. You're bad, something like this. So IdPol people always do this. Identity politics people always do this. It has to fit the narrative. If it doesn't fit the narrative, then you're wrong. You're this, you're that. And it's like, you can get mad about it all you want, but that's what the number one correlation is. If you take the reproductive years of women in their 20s, and then they have to get established after in the workforce, they usually are going to start having kids in their 30s, and that's exactly what we see. We see them getting married in their 30s. Now, nobody's stopping anybody from getting married. You can go right now and marry a homeless woman on the street tomorrow and start having kids with her if you wanted to. there's no like laws stopping that. But family planning, actually, number one correlation is because women are getting abortions. Nope, it's not true. All that would do, even if you eliminated it, it would raise the population by about 750,000 per year, Ben, something in there. That would only offset the 750,000 or so south of the border immigrants, which come in yearly. That's it. But it wouldn't actually do anything to curtail the problem. It would only slightly raise the domestic birth rate. So abortion really isn't it. Like that's not what the stats say either. That might be able to offset a bit for immigration. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, ultimately, that's what's going on. And so why the reason that Elon, I consider him to be such a disappointment, is because he went down the left wing road of just saying, well, instead of trying to fix this issue, which is it's a serious issue. What's the second worst? The second worst correlate would be industrialization and family planning. So, I mean, honestly, that would be the second big correlate. Abortion would be third or fourth. It's still big. I mean, don't get me wrong; it's a big problem. Like it is a big fucking problem. There's no doubt about it. But it's not the kind of the number one thing that we should be looking at. What we should be looking at is essentially there should be a form of patriotism or a form of duty set, some sort of form of kind of social or societal respect, which comes with the family unit that is held in some sort of higher esteem socially than other forms of lifestyle. If you did that, you would see this reversal happen very quickly. Propaganda works. Say what you want, but it works. Musk, instead of saying, well, all the tech giants here in Silicon Valley, I'm going to direct them to embrace such kind of rhetoric and embrace such a national campaign and tell tech leaders that that's where we need to go to curtail this issue, to lobby the government to assist with that. Instead, he went the corporate route and just said, well, I can get cheap labor, let no crisis go to waste. And that's fucking disgusting to me and to everybody who's looking at this right now. I saw Michaela Peterson weighed in on it. And again, made it about race. It's because they're racist. It's because the other side is racist. That's why they want to curtail immigration, because of racism. That's what Michaela Peterson said. And so I'm sure that that's what Jordan Peterson will say. And that's what Elon Musk is saying. Literally what Elon Musk is saying, same thing. The other side's just racist. They just don't like brown people. And it's like, it really has nothing to do with that. It just really has nothing to do with that. However, the right side uses this as a kind of a race bait issue as well. They don't help the matter at all. You know what I mean? It should just be looked at as an objective issue that the entire world is dealing with. The whole fucking world is dealing with it. The Japanese are dealing with it. The Koreans are dealing with it. Even China's dealing with it. Everybody's dealing with it. It's a serious issue. It's the issue of our generation and the next one for sure. So that's it. That's where we're at. So I would like Elon Musk, he's deport him. Let's deport Elon Musk. That would be kind of fun, right? Fucker. What a fuckhead. What a fuckhead. He had this this was his time to shine, man. This was his time to shine. He's been all about the birth rates. He's been all over it for about a year. He's been explaining how this is a global phenomenon. He's been showing how this is such a problem. He's been showing how this is such an issue for the entire world, what population collapse would look like. Instead of doing anything to address that at all, he just says, well, let's bring in high-skilled tech workers that can work in my fucking, work in my Tesla automotive plants and work on in Silicon Valley for a cheaper wage than these low-skilled software engineer Americans. It's like, fuck you, dude. Fuck you. How the hell did we get to that? He had a great opportunity to really lay out like a really definitive kind of plan for, well, why don't we just subvert it a little bit? Why don't we create an atmosphere of kind of social elevation, like we used to do during wartime, or that we've done multiple times in our history for the purposes of patriotism, for the purposes of dealing with a crisis. Like, hey, give up all of your silver because the war effort needs it. You know what I mean? And here's a bunch of propaganda behind it. People really will help. They really will. They'll go out of their way to do that. And it's like, he really could have laid something like that out, something. But instead he was just like, yeah, bring in the Indians so that, Chuck can help you with your fucking Verizon bill. Hello, this is Chuck. This is Chuck. I am here to help you, sir, with your Verizon bill. Now, have I provided you with pristine customer service today? Thank you. Make sure that you find Chuck again. It's like, dude, get the fuck out of here with this shit. What the fuck, dude? So yeah, it's annoying. Super annoying. Now, you see, because I even said on stream the word race, every race baiting 2-bit fucking hustler scumbag is going to be like, Andrew hates white people. They just, dude, those kinds of people, like, they can't fucking help it. They just lose their fucking mind. You know what I mean? If they hear anything which is just an objective assessment that doesn't include some kind of race hustling on either side, they just lose their fucking mind, because it's a paradigm in which to view the world. You can view the world that way. Just like you can view the world through the J question, all that. You can view the world through these prisms. It doesn't make them right. It doesn't make them correct. And so it's like you should really try to look at these things outside of your own narrative and see what adds up instead of trying to make the puzzle pieces fit. So anyway, that's my take on it.